Yeah, I guess wanted to ask about a couple of kids that were there in Bakersfield last year. I guess start with Xavier. And how did you see him progress, and what did you like about his game last year?
I thought Xavier was excellent in Penticton. I thought he first half of the season he had some great strides playing special teams, PK, power play. Second half of the season it was a little felt like the wares of playing against men. And I think those are good lessons for him. I think he had some ups and downs in that period, but I think everybody in their first year has ups and downs, no matter what it is you do. So he's put a big summer in so far. Put some weight on. He's had a really full summer as far as to get ready. When you look back on the Memorial Cup and all those sorts of things, it's almost never ended for him, right? So with starting back at development camp after, so we're excited to see him take a step again next year and just try to maximize his growth.
When you see those offensively talented kids come from junior to the professional ranks, what is the main thing that they have to work on, and what do you see as something that they have to really fill out their game?
Well, always playing away from the puck defensively, playing on the wall in your zone, those sorts of things are always, and as you've seen at the NHL level, it takes time for that to evolve. But getting to the scoring areas it's much more difficult. You're playing against men, you're playing against guys that have had, use Calgary for example. Most of the guys in their team had over 100 American Hockey League games experience, right? So you look at the difference of Ralph Lavoie, right, last season, of just being able to go through those experiences. So I would say that the hardest part is getting multiple offensive chances. Whereas in junior and college, they have lots of chances, and eventually they're gonna convert on. They may only get one look, and then following up that look, staying on the puck. Those little nuances, that's part of the coaching staff has to find a way to make them understand how it's going to help them individually and help our team. And they were all great at that, the young players, but it took really until about after Christmas for that part to, that area of the game to sink in.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's a kid that's grown up with a puck on his stick the whole time, and so now he gets there and it's not on his stick all the time. So
yeah, right, to learn how to play without it. And then, they're arguably the best line in junior that year. And Maverick Bork, another first-round pick. And then you see he had some challenges this year in the American League as well in Texas, right? Yeah. So that's part of the development, part of the growth. And know that that's coming. As coaches, know that it's coming, and you just work with them. And at the same time, you still got to hold to a high standard because they've had that high standard their whole career. And this is, for some of these players, the first time it's a wow moment. That, there's things I need to improve on. They've been the best player on their team since youth hockey for the most part, right? So.
And how do you like him on his schedule? Is he on schedule? Do you feel like do you like the progression he's made?
Yeah, I think he's seen it and he's felt it, right? So when you have a conversation and there's resistance, it's like, no, it's not what I'm seeing. There was never that. So he sees it, he felt it, he knows the things that he has to work on, and then again, it's not going to happen right away. If it does, I think it's a bonus. But he's gonna have opportunities to play in those tough areas, meaningful minutes, tight games, that kind of stuff. So he'll continue to grow and draw on those experiences, and the more he goes through it, the better he'll be. So I think the biggest part is he on path? He's on path because he's accepted and understands what he needs to do, and the strength team is putting those areas in off the ice here, and then we'll be excited to see him again here in September.
I want to ask you about Carter as well. I guess, what was his progression like, and what did you see in his game?
Carter, he had a glimpse there for about a month that he went to hard areas. He took hits to make plays. I think for him, he needs to try to do that more consistently. The other part was staying healthy, right? He was injured in Penticton. He was injured a few times, and then coming back from his injuries, it took a long time. It took multiple games, almost into double digits, for him to get back to where he was. And in today's world, it needs to happen a little bit quicker. Now, does that mean an NHL player? What I'm saying is that he's shown a certain level, and then now we see what he's capable of, and then there's a setback. So that's the conversation that management and our staff had with him. He is in great shape. He's in great health, and as showed on his fitness testing scores. I know that's not going to amount to points and wins and that kind of stuff. But that's a starting point, and those are wins, or those are victories in the off season. So he's shown that.
But that's another thing too. Like some of these kids have to fill out and think out. Like they got to grow, I guess, back into their bodies.
They do, and then the other part is learning how to live on their own, right? Learning how to take care of themselves, learning how to, that's part of some of the new things that development camp has offered this year: cooking lessons and life lessons, and trying to balance hockey and life, understanding how to go through the grind of a long American League season or an NHL season. They're playing every day here, every other day, almost. If you look at that, if you ever really look at an NHL schedule, for the kids, they don't look at it; they just see what's on TV. But if you really look at the travel and what's involved, it's really tough. That's part of being able to manage and make sure your body and your mind is an investment for yourself as to where you want to try to go to. But there's a learning curve there in how you do it.
Especially with the young players, what's your approach in helping them kind of guide through their first couple of years of pro, and how much do you kind of embrace that challenge?
Yeah, it's tough, but I think that's, as a coach, it makes you come back every day and have enjoyment, because for some of them, they're open their eyes and they haven't heard or haven't experienced, like we said, just learning how to shop and learning how to make sure that they're up in the morning and they're dressed properly and they're professional to come to the rink with their hair brushed, and those. So if you're starting off to making sure your home life and those sorts of things are intact, it's going to overflow into your personal life, into your game, into your details, all those sorts of things. So I think Keith Gretzky does a fantastic job on a lot of the stuff off the ice, making sure that guys are living with the proper people in the right areas, understanding what they need to do. And then our coaching staff, from an on-ice perspective and almost like a fatherly perspective too, big brother perspective, that's part of the job. So we really enjoy that part. And then there's also some tough love as well, right? That you have to that level of accountability and honesty that they need to hear and sometimes don't like to hear. I think the follow-up is positivity and solution-based answers and information for these players, because going back to earlier, they really haven't faced a lot of adversity. They've been the best player on their team, or a cluster of the best player on their team, for pretty much most of their life.
Your first full AHL season as a head coach last season, does it differ from the ECHL where you spent 4 years as a head coach? Is there anything different?
Yeah, I mean, you really, I think the biggest thing is more staff to manage, right? You're when you're in the ECHL, you're usually a 2 or 3 man team. You're the general manager. You're the power play coach, the penalty. You're a jack of all trades. You really have to learn how to organize your time. Whereas in the American League, you have to learn how to accept help. You have to learn how to delegate and allow people that are in there that are great in their area, allow them to be great. But then at the same time, having a watchful eye on it, understanding when you need to interject and when you need to, maybe put your spin on it. But managing 1 or 2 staff members to 11, that I would say that was a big difference. And then also the lineup change is there too. But the ECHL was a similar, right? Hockey's hockey, and the American leagues are taking them, or the NHL's taking them. So I think you have to keep that in mind as a coach, that you're not building rockets. You're trying to build hockey players and young men and maximize their potential. They become NHL players. That's the end goal.
How frequent is the communication with the coaching staff here with the big club to make sure that you guys are applying the same processes, the same values, and everything that kind of falls under the Oilers brand?
Well, I mean, with the social media and your cell phones and everything, like Woody is a quick text away. So, it's always, you guys know he's detailed, he's thorough. He's experienced. We work together. I think that part really helped. But at any point, there's a phone call, there's a text. Sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's daily, sometimes we don't talk for 2 weeks. So that's it's as needed basis. But the relationship and the Condors are the mini Oilers. We talk about the road. It's in our dressing room. The road to Edmonton runs through Bakersfield. So, and the players are listed that have gone through there. So the culture was set before our staff. We've extended that, and we've also added different layers as well. But the communication with Gully, with Shorty, with Dave, with Stewie, all those guys are excellent. And obviously Keith is communicating with management. So, and he's there every day. So we like that part. We like that. We want to be able to show that we're doing good things, and we want people to be able to see it.
You have firsthand experience with a guy that is hoping to make a big impact next season, that being Dylan Holloway. Of course, he's had to battle through some injuries and kind of work through that. But from your firsthand experience, what are some of the traits that he can maybe bring in here into Edmonton and hopefully have a little bit more impact than he had this past season?
Yeah, it was a really interesting journey with myself personally and Dylan, because he came in under when I was an assistant under Jay, right, initially, midway through the season, and then the promotions happened and coaches changing, and I had the opportunity to kind of work with Dylan really closely, and he made some really, really great strides that he was playing in all situations. He was arguably the best player on the ice. And I don't mean offensively. I mean, being physical and staying on pucks and killing penalties and blocking shots and doing all the necessary things that needs to get him in the NHL, because it's going to be difficult to get on to the number one power play right now in Edmonton, right? So he did those things. Did it again, and Penticton, James Hamlin himself, Xavier Burgo, they were really impactful. They were probably the best line, in my opinion, in that tournament. So that set him up to start the season. But then, he had some setbacks, right? That it's hard to be an everyday NHL player. And so, he needs to, I'm sure he's been told, he needs to continue to play hard, away from the puck, make sure that he does those things, but then also have the confidence that when he has time and space to take the puck to the inside, to be an offensive player. He has shown that he can do that. That's touches, that's time, and those are minutes, but, knowing the J staff, that has to be earned on a daily basis. And for young players, it just takes some time. So, we're excited to see him in camp and see him try to make an impact in Edmonton this year. And we're thankful we got him last year to get some more playoff experience. And I think all those things amount to be able to not racing to get to the NHL, but when you get there, you're over ready, and it's how long you stay, not how fast you get there.
I wanted to ask about Bo Akey, and just his first impressions of him as a player here.
He's smooth. He's smooth. He's when you talk to him, he's real attentive and his eyes wide open. It's almost like his ears get larger, right? Because he's trying to soak in anything you're saying to him. He seems like a really nice kid. But I think the first impression is he's smooth. He definitely has some good pivoting ability and good skating ability with the puck. He looks like he's able to move the puck, with grace but with little velocity. And there's some meat on his pass. But I would also say he's young and he's green, right? I'd also say he's looking around and understanding, I'm sure, where to even go in the Oilers dressing room. It's not the easiest place to get around if you've never been there before, right? So I think those are part of what development camp is for. So when he comes back to main camp, he understands where to change, where to get lunch, and all those sorts of things. He's had a conversation with myself and the other staff, and I think those are good first impressions for him to set him up for some success moving forward.
In your experience with young defensemen, I guess same thing. What's kind of when he eventually does make the jump to the pro level, I guess, what are the biggest adjustments you see for young defensemen like that?
What Keith McCambridge worked on there at the last half was box outs and net front battles, and you see. You hear Jay, I'm sure, say it all the time. May and June. You want May and June goals. They're nice to come in May and June, but we as an organization want them in September, October, November, et cetera, right? So those areas as a young defenseman, when you have Brad Malone driving the net in practice, it's an eye opener to see what a 33-year-old man, the power and weight and what that feels like. You never felt that up until you get to NHL camp. You feel it a little bit, and then you end up in the American League, or you start in the American League, and those box outs, breaking out the puck under severe pressure, and then managing the lifestyle, the schedule, learning how to live, learning how to be on your own. You're coming from billets or land parents that are extension of your family, right? His parents are Waterloo, Kitchener. It's not you know, it's relatively close. You can get home, you know. So all those things, you know, we've all been through. Everybody in this room is about growing up, and you know, and change forces that growth. But there's a time that takes, and that's what the entry level contracts are for.